between us and this island and head out to open sea.
Yes to the first and yes to the second, but only so far as we keep to the... I'm just going to start a take again. Shall I? Good idea.
All that's left is to climb aboard the Davy Jones crocodile machine, or whatever it's called. What's the bloody thing called? Flying what?
At 60 years old, Johnny Depp no longer has anything to lose. The fame, the fortune, the blockbuster roles, they've all come and gone in waves. But what remains is the pain, the betrayal, the names he still can't say without a flicker of anger in his voice. For decades, Depp was the untouchable enigma of Hollywood, a heartthrob, a box office king, a chameleon who could vanish into any role. But behind that cool exterior was a man silently collecting scars. Some were emotional, some were career-ending. All were delivered by people he once trusted. Now, for the first time, Depp is pulling back the curtain. Not to talk about pirates or courtrooms, but about the 5 public figures who turned their backs on him when he needed them most. The ones who whispered behind closed doors. The ones who betrayed him, condemned him, and in some cases tried to erase him. This isn't a redemption story. It's a reckoning. And it begins with a woman he once loved and now calls his biggest regret. Johnny Depp never wanted to be a movie star. In his youth, he chased music, not fame strumming guitar strings in smoky Florida garages, dreaming of rock tours, not red carpets. Acting was an accident, a phone call, a chance audition for A Nightmare on Elm Street that turned into his breakout role. One line, one death scene, and suddenly Hollywood couldn't look away. The 1,990 seconds saw Depp transform into a new kind of icon. He wasn't just a pretty face, he was a misfit, a rebel, the anti-movie star who rejected the mainstream while becoming its most alluring figure. Edward Scissorhands, Donnie Brasco, What's Eating Gilbert Grape, he turned every role into myth, every stare into mystery. But behind the screen was a man growing more isolated. Depp hated the press, loathed the industry games, and clung tightly to a small circle of trust. Directors like Tim Burton, mentors like Hunter S. Thompson, and the rare co-star who didn't try to outshine or manipulate. He was charming, intense, and fiercely loyal, but that loyalty was a double-edged sword. Because when betrayal came, it didn't come from strangers. It came from people inside that circle. People who smiled with him on red carpets, shared drinks in dim-lit rooms, and later sold him out publicly, ruthlessly. By the time Pirates of the Caribbean turned him into one of the most bankable actors in the world, Depp was already haunted. Haunted by addictions, whispers, lawsuits, and the creeping feeling that some in Hollywood never really wanted him to win. He rose fast, but he was never safe. And when it all began to unravel, it started with her, Amber Heard, the woman he once called his soulmate. She walked into his life like a scene from one of his films, mysterious, captivating, and dangerous. Amber Heard was young, ambitious, and intoxicating. Depp, 22 years her senior, called her magic. She called him my angel. But the fairy tale quickly cracked. Their relationship was a storm, passionate, chaotic, and volatile. Friends warned him. His inner circle whispered doubts, but Depp, ever the romantic, ignored them all. He bought her art, poetry, castles. He changed his will for her. And when they married in 2015, he believed despite the headlines and hushed concerns that this was his second chance at real love. He was wrong. The divorce came barely a year later, but the real damage began with Amber's 2018 Washington Post op-ed. She never said his name. She didn't have to. The world assumed. Studios assumed. And in a matter of weeks, Depp was no longer Captain Jack Sparrow. Disney dropped him. Hollywood went silent. Then came the courtrooms, the allegations, the recordings, the finger-pointing. Heard accused him of abuse. He countered with claims of manipulation, gaslighting, even physical violence. Their toxic love story became global tabloid fuel. Every headline, every leaked tape, every courtroom sketch chipped away at the image he had spent decades building. But for Depp, the betrayal wasn't just public. It was personal. He had given Amber everything: his trust, his home, his heart. And in return, he felt stripped of everything. The woman he once defended against everyone became the person he believed shattered his career, his reputation, and nearly his life. In interviews since, Depp has never used her name with venom, but his silences speak louder than any outburst. The pain sits behind his eyes, the kind of pain that doesn't heal, the kind of betrayal you never forgive. Amber wasn't just a love gone wrong, she was the beginning of his fall. Long before the cameras and courtrooms, Ellen Barkin was just another wild spirit in Johnny Depp's orbit. They met in the mid-1992nd during the filming of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. She was older, experienced, magnetic. He was rising fast, unpredictable, charming. Their relationship, complicated. Barkin once called it casual. Depp called it brief. But what mattered wasn't how it started. It was how it ended and what came years later. In 2020, during Depp's legal battle with a British tabloid, Barkin was called to testify. She didn't hold back. Under oath, she painted Depp as jealous, possessive, and violent. She claimed he once threw a wine bottle across a hotel room. She spoke of his drug use, his temper, his controlling nature. Her testimony made headlines. It echoed in the courtroom. It hurt, but for Depp, it wasn't just what she said. It was that she said it at all. He believed they had left the past in the past. They had moved on separate lives, separate paths. Yet there she was, years later, taking the stand for the other side, speaking not just as a witness, but as a character assassin. In private, Depp was said to be stunned. Of all the people he expected to betray him, Barkin wasn't one. She had once shared his table, his trust, his world. Now, she was sharing her version of him with the world and helping shape the narrative that would haunt him for years. To this day, Depp has never publicly lashed out at Ellen Barkin. He doesn't have to. His silence is loud, and the hurt behind it is personal. Because sometimes, the deepest cuts don't come from enemies. They come from those you once let in. For over a decade, Johnny Depp was Disney. He didn't just play Captain Jack Sparrow, he became him. With smeared eyeliner, drunken swagger, and a slurred charm that confused even studio executives at first, Depp redefined what a blockbuster hero could be. The risk paid off. Pirates of the Caribbean exploded into a multi-billion-dollar franchise. Merchandise, theme park rides, global tours, it all bore his face. And then, they erased him. In 2018, as Amber Heard's allegations spread, Disney did what corporations do best. They stayed quiet, then slipped out the back door. No calls, no loyalty. No chance for Depp to explain, defend, or even say goodbye. Just silence, and then the announcement, Captain Jack Sparrow would not return. For Depp, the betrayal wasn't just professional, it was gutting. He had given the role everything, physically, emotionally, spiritually. He improvised lines, shaped story arcs, and turned what was once a throwaway pirate flick into cinematic legend. At fan conventions, children dressed as Jack. He visited hospitals in costume, unpaid. To him, Jack was more than a paycheck. It was personal. So when Disney dropped him without trial, without facts, without even a conversation, it cut deep. He later revealed in court that he would never return to the franchise, not even for $300 million and a million alpacas. That wasn't sarcasm. It was heartbreak. It was the bitter acknowledgement that the company he helped build had cast him out the moment things got messy. And yet, years later, when the truth began shifting and public opinion leaned his way, rumors swirled that Disney wanted him back. The studio flirted with nostalgia. Fans begged. Executives hinted. But Johnny stayed firm. Because some betrayals aren't just about contracts or characters. They're about the moment you realize you were never more than a product. He wasn't an actor. He wasn't a friend. But he was there lingering in the shadows of Johnny Depp's most chaotic chapter. Elon Musk, the billionaire tech mogul, didn't just enter Amber Heard's life. He entered Depp's story. Quietly at first, text messages, surveillance footage, whispers of late-night visits to the penthouse Depp and Heard once shared. Then, more boldly, with red carpets, headlines, and public displays that felt, to Depp, like a slap. According to court testimony, Musk and Heard began their entanglement before Depp and Amber were officially separated. Security footage submitted during the trial showed Musk visiting Heard while Depp was allegedly out of town. To Depp, it wasn't just betrayal, it was humiliation. He believed Musk crossed the line not only as a man, but as a figure who inserted himself into a deeply personal implosion. And while Musk publicly maintained that his relationship with Heard began after the marriage ended, the timeline remained murky. The damage, however, was clear. In the 2022 defamation trial, Depp's legal team openly accused Musk of interfering, of being present too soon, too intimately. Musk, for his part, stayed distant, tweeting memes, dropping cryptic one-liners, then disappearing. He refused to testify. He denied involvement. But the ghost of his presence loomed large over the entire courtroom. To Depp, Musk symbolized something more than just a rebound. He was a reminder of how easily the world moved on, how quickly others slipped into your place, your home, your life, your memories before the dust had even settled. Elon Musk may not have spoken a word against Depp, but in Johnny's mind, silence can scream. Because betrayal isn't always about what someone says. Sometimes, it's about how easily they replace you. There was no press release, no warning, just silence. When the allegations surfaced and the headlines exploded, Johnny Depp didn't just lose roles, he lost people. Directors who once called him brilliant went quiet. Co-stars who once praised his artistry stopped answering calls. Producers who used to dine with him in five-star hotels suddenly weren't available. The machine turned off and no one told him why. It wasn't just that he was being erased. It was who was erasing him. Hollywood, for decades, had embraced Depp's chaos, his late arrivals, his messy romances, his brooding genius. They sold it, packaged it, profited from it. They needed him to be unpredictable, until unpredictability became a liability. Once the narrative flipped, so did their loyalty. Studios distanced themselves. PR teams scrubbed mentions. Award shows ignored him. Former allies whispered, "It's best to stay neutral." But neutrality, Depp learned, is betrayal in disguise. He watched, heartbroken, as those he once lifted vanished. A-list actors he had mentored didn't speak. Filmmakers he had worked with 5, 6, 7 times chose silence over support. Some even sided with his accuser, not because they believed, but because it was safer, cleaner. He wasn't canceled by a judge. He was canceled by cowards in suits. Years later, after the court ruled in his favor, the floodgates opened. Offers, apologies, even awards. The very same voices who had vanished now praised his resilience. They posted black and white photos of him on Instagram, hashtags of numbered justice for Johnny, pretending they were never gone. But Johnny remembered. He remembered who stayed, and more painfully who didn't. Because the deepest betrayal isn't public. It's private. It's in the silence of friends who vanish, the phone that stops ringing, the red carpet you're no longer invited to. It's not just being dropped from a film, it's being dropped from your own life. Hollywood didn't break Johnny Depp with lawsuits or tabloids. It broke him with silence. Johnny Depp doesn't ask for sympathy. He never did. What he wants, what he's always wanted, is truth. Not just legal truth, but the kind that lives in the eyes of those who watched him fall and still believed in who he was beneath the makeup, beneath the scandal. He knows the damage has been done. Some roles are gone forever. Some friendships won't be rekindled. The years he spent in courtrooms and hotel rooms, hiding from headlines, can't be undone. But he's not bitter, he's awake. And for the first time in decades, he speaks with clarity, not smoke. "I'm not a victim," he once said. "I'm a survivor of lies." This is not a man seeking revenge. It's a man reclaiming his narrative, not with rage, but with resilience. Not by tearing others down, but by finally telling his truth without shame, without filter, without fear of who will walk away next. The 5 names he will never forgive, they're not just people. They're symbols of something larger. How quickly the world forgets, how fast power runs when scandal starts, and how few remain when everything burns down. But Johnny is still here, not perfect, not broken, just finally free. If this story moved you, if you saw the cracks behind the camera and the truth behind the headlines, then don't let it fade into silence. Drop a comment below. Which betrayal hit you the hardest? Share this video with someone who still believes in justice. And if you want more untold stories of icons who rose, fell, and fought back then, subscribe to Faded Crowns now. Because in a world quick to cancel and slow to listen, we tell the stories that deserve to be heard. This isn't just Hollywood gossip. It's legacy,